and welcome to the 5-minute recap of Herdacity's August webinar, Let's Change the Conversation, a strategic guide for women's communication by educator Sam Barrow. Now, these are going to be our main takeaways from the webinar, but they are no means all this webinar has to offer. So if you want the full scoop, I encourage you to visit herdacity.org/webinars for more. Now let's get to it. Our speaker, Sam Barrow, has worked in operations and personnel development. She comes to us from the fast-paced startup industry specializing in education. Sam is passionate that education is a fundamental need and a right for every adult, and that learning doesn't end in high school or in college. Now that we know our speaker better, let's dig in. Number 1, communication style and methodology. Understanding and clearly articulating your preferred communication method is an extremely powerful tool and can be liberating. Now let's hear a little bit from Sam on the subject.
So communication styles and methods are important because they allow us to communicate and articulate our preferred communication styles to other folks. And it can be an extremely liberating and powerful experience. As I mentioned, women often have trouble communicating their needs to other folks, communicating their accomplishments to other folks, and that can reflect in the way that you ask for things, the way that you get ahead in the workplace, the way that you build relationships. I have about 3 levels of communication I have with folks, and for people who I truly believe are working towards the same goal. So we're just clearly not on the same page, and it's no fault of anyone's. I ask that, how can we get on the same page? I leave it as an open-ended question. How can I help you? How can you help me? These are those kinds of things you want to think about. Where are they coming from? What did they, how did you get here? And what can you do differently to make sure that you're understanding each other?
Number 2, the use of intentional language. It is important that we become more aware and intentional about our word choices because language is nuanced. Words have personal, social, and cultural significance, and that they can influence the way our messages are received. So it is very important that we become more intentional and aware about the language that we're using. Number 3, inclusive language. Now, intentionality is not the only component of effective language. Inclusive language choice is as well. It is important that we're mindful of our language choices and that we're not creating division with our language, that we're not making people feel othered with our language choices, and that we're not being offensive in general. So despite our best intentions, we could end up offending or excluding our audience if we are not mindful of the use of inclusive language. Now let's hear a little bit more about this from Sam.
These are some common issues we run into with using inclusive language. I've put some examples. You may want to screenshot this just to give us give you something to refer back to. But I want to dig into this one for sure as we think about appropriative language, exclusive language, ableist language.
Now here is a bonus takeaway before we leave. Accepting feedback is critical. Here's Sam for more.
Feedback is critical. We need it for self-reflection. We need it for strengthening relationships, and it helps us form and understand outside perspectives. It took me a very long time to understand feedback, to be able to take it in and not immediately think I hate it. So keeping in mind that we need it for self-reflection. Some of the feedback that I've received has been around kind of grabbing the bull by the horns and moving forward and not necessarily explaining that to people. So they felt lost. They felt that I was kind of micromanaging. And so to be able to look at that and say that was absolutely not my intention. How do I be a better manager? How can I make sure my team knows what they need? How can I make sure that my partner knows what I need? And instead of me just going, I'll do it, no, don't worry about it.
That's all the time we have for this recap. Be sure to check out our website for the full webinar, more resources, and a ton of positive vibes to help you on your career journey. See you next time.